In this video, we are going to talk about 6 signs of the father wound in the fearful avoidant. I am Pauline, and I am so happy you are here because in the last video, we talked about 5 questions that you can ask yourself to see which parent maybe has a fearful avoidant attachment style. And I thought we kind of would continue on with that. And so in this video, we will discuss the 6 signs of the father wound, and then in the next one, the 6 signs of a mother wound as a fearful avoidant, just to gain more and more understanding of which parents maybe cause the fearful avoidant attachment style in you more, without wanting to blame them. Just this was what it is, and it will help you heal more specifically. The more specific you can be, the more easy it becomes to heal, the faster it goes, and that's what I wish for you. So in this video, we are going to dive into the 6 signs of the father wound. And I do have to say, people obviously differ so much, and one fearful avoidant is very different from another fearful avoidant. There are tendencies that are alike, but not every fearful avoidant has those. So if you don't recognize yourself at all in the signs that we are going to talk about, it doesn't mean that you're not a fearful avoidant or that your father wasn't the one that that was a fearful avoidant. It's really hard to encapsulate all of it in one video because every single person is just so differently, works so differently. So the first sign is a focus on performance. It could be that you notice that you're just focused on performance, or it could be that you remember that your father was just focused on performance. And it could be that this was actually, for the most part, well-intentioned, in the sense that they just kept saying, "Good job, oh, that's so good of you," wanting to build your self-esteem in a way. But what that does is that you feel like you only matter, or things are only all right when you succeed, when you perform. And a lot of fearful avoidant parents have this tendency, because they want their children to succeed in this big bad world that they view the world as. They have a pretty fearful view of the world. And so they really want you to do well and make sure that you're doing well. And therefore they are focused on performance. And that could be athletic, it could be academic, but it could also be social, that you are socially acceptable. It could be in your emotions and reactions, that they're very focused on you have to be happy and you have to control your emotions. So focused on being a good kid, I guess. So performance can be in very different areas. I think most fearful avoidant parents focus on the academic part, but my father didn't at all. So it doesn't say that it always has to be on the academic or always on the athletic. And then a second sign is you can't fail or make mistakes. You're not allowed to fail or make mistakes. Your parent would get angry or would get frustrated or would make you feel like you are dumb and worthless for making a mistake. Like, oh, why would you do that? And over and over and over again, this just instills this belief that I am not allowed to fail or make mistakes, because then I am worthless. My parent just completely pulls their hands off of me and is just annoyed with me. So that focus on not being allowed to fail or make mistakes, so kind of having to be perfect, can be a sign of the father wound. Then the third sign is you are not allowed to be weak, and you are also not allowed to be powerful. And this is a very interesting one. A lot of fearful avoidant parents have an immense need for control. And that means that on the one hand, they want to be needed, they need to be needed. On the other hand, they feel like they can't lose control. They are very much looking for control always. And when you are weak, um, that is not good, because a lot of fearful avoidant parents see weak, and I think this is more specific for fathers usually in the whole pretty much toxic masculinity world. Um, it is seen as not good to be weak, to show emotions, to to be weak in general, whatever that looks like. And then on the other hand, a fearful avoidant parent won't want you to be too powerful, because then they will lose control. And so what you see a lot in fearful avoidance is that they find this space where they have something that would make them weak so that they're not too powerful, but they handle that in a powerful way. So what a lot of fearful avoidants have is, for example, a health struggle. They have chronic fatigue syndrome, just as an example, but they handle that in a very strong way. They are very strong about that. That is a very comfortable and safe situation to be in for a fearful avoidant, and also for a fearful avoidant parent, and usually father, because usually, and I'm saying usually because nothing is black and white, obviously, fathers are the ones that need that control more, and fathers are the ones that are too focused on you can't be weak. And then the fourth sign is when you tend to be walking on eggshells and you tend to hold your breath. That is a sign of the father wound for a fearful avoidant too, because if your father would get angry really quickly, would explode in any given moment, then it is logical that you start to walk on eggshells and that you start to hold your breath. And this is more so for fathers than for mothers, maybe because men tend to be bigger, have a lower voice, and so they tend to be more intimidating when they are angry, and make you feel physically threatened, because you were a child, you were very, very small, and your parents, both your parents, are just really big in comparison, and you always look up to them, quite literally. And so when your parent gets angry, but even more so for a father who is big and has a really loud, hard, or low voice, that is very intimidating. And so I think this sign is usually may come from the fearful avoidant father wound more than the mother wound, but it's not black and white. It's not black and white. Then the fifth sign is anger and lashing out when feeling vulnerable. Again, this is just also maybe given in by societal standards that men are not allowed to be weak and not allowed to be vulnerable, because that's not manly. I do not subscribe to any of that, but that's just what society is, and even more so used to be in the time when our parents were little. So it could be that your father, when he felt vulnerable for whatever reason, in whatever way, would be triggered and would kind of panic, obviously all not consciously, and then he would get angry and lash out instead of being able to regulate and connect. So vulnerability then equals anger and lashing out, which makes vulnerability feel very unsafe for you. I remember specific moments when I would have a vulnerable moment with my dad, and he would just get angry out of nowhere, and I thought I was doing something wrong, and vulnerability just felt very scary. And then the sixth sign is poor choices in romantic partners, and this means just allowing abuse or having unavailable partners. Yeah, I think this maybe goes for the mother and the father wound, but I think the emotionally unavailable partners is definitely something that, again, is given in by society, or is fed by society. men are more allowed and sometimes even expected, especially in history, to be emotionally unavailable because that would appear that they are strong, which is just not true, obviously. But um, that's what we're working with. So poor choices in romantic partners is definitely also a sign of a father wound. Um, and just kind of recreating that dynamic that you maybe had with your father. And this is more so for when your father was the opposite sex gender and you are straight, and you tend to be attracted to males as well, because then there's just so many associations with all of that. So those are 6 signs of the father wound as a fearful avoidant. And again, this is not an exhaustive list. There's probably more, way more. And for every fearful avoidant, this could look differently. Like the little package you almost got from your father as a father wound. But this is just to help you kind of maybe see a little bit more where it comes from. I hope it helped. Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And as always, I am so happy you are here, and I will see you in the next one.
Healed and Happy is a tailor made online program where me and my team personally guide you through healing the roots of a fearful avoidant attachment style.